Live, local. This is Fox 12 Now.
And hello, everyone. Welcome to Fox 12 Now. I'm Greg Nibbler. There is a live shot of Mount Hood from our ski bowl camera. That's a pretty great shot right there. And I've got to tell you, seeing the outdoors like that, even with the clouds, does make me want to get out and go camping. It is that time of year for me. But hello, and thank you for being here. We are live streaming here every weekday starting at 1 p.m. Pacific. We're on Facebook, YouTube, our website, and our apps. So lots of places to find the show and, of course, watch the segments afterward. I just always like to remind everybody of that. But right now, we are talking about the outdoors in the Northwest, in particular the state of Washington, but also here in Oregon. And we're going to be talking about the Buy It Where You Burn It campaign, which, if you are a camper, this is very important information to know about where you get your firewood and where you shouldn't be taking your firewood. So we're going to talk all about that and more. Joining us right now, we've got Stephanie Holmes, who is the Executive Director of the Washington Invasive Species Council. And Stephanie, thank you for being here. I always like to get as much information as I can, and I think this is definitely an important topic for everybody to learn about. But to start off, just to give everybody a little context, would you mind just telling us about your organization and what you do there?
Sure. Thanks so much, Greg. Really appreciate being here. My name is Stephanie Helms. I'm the Executive Coordinator to the Washington Invasive Species Council. And a little bit of a background on the council is it was established by the state legislature in 2006. And we're tasked with the policy level direction, planning, and coordination for combating invasive species throughout Washington state and preventing the introduction of others that may be harmful. We're comprised of 22 different member agencies ranging from state and federal entities to tribes, local researchers, and industry professionals. And what makes the Washington Invasive Species Council so unique is we look statewide at both prevention and management. And we also look holistically across agency missions and operations to find ways to collaborate and look for opportunities to find ways to make our efforts more efficient, but also to identify gaps in anything that we maybe have in our response capabilities and filling those gaps that maybe agencies wouldn't be individually able to fill. And we look at all different types of invasive species from plants, animals, diseases, insects in both land and water. So again, taking that holistic statewide approach.
Wow, that is a monumental task. I mean, coordinating between all of those different organizations to all kind of be on the same page and get all that information, that's a task in its own right. But then you mentioned, it's all kinds of invasive species, whether it's plants, animals, or insects, or whatever would fall under any category for that. Is there a certain number that you're consistently looking at that you're concerned with, or is it a constantly changing thing where you have to be really vigilant and watch out for what's coming in?
Sure. So we always try and stay vigilant and adaptive and flexible. So if there is anything new on the horizon, we can start looking at the potential impacts there. We do have a list of 50 priority species, and we came up with that list by scoring them based on whether they're in Washington, close to Washington, far away, whether they're able to be managed and everything once they're here. So how difficult is it to manage once they are present within Washington state? And what are the impacts economically, agriculturally, and also to our natural areas as well. So that list of 50 species can be found at our website, which is invasivespecies.wa.gov.
And with all these different organizations working together, and I'm assuming, campaigning for the public as well, is a lot of that just trying to identify where these certain species may be, trying to eradicate them or remove them from whatever area they're not supposed to be in. Is that kind of how all that works? Is everybody's working together for that goal?
Yes, it takes everybody working together from the local to the global level because invasive species do not respect jurisdictional boundaries. And so one of the things the council does is really analyze those pathways in which invasive species can move, because anything that moves can move an invasive species. So it can be anything from invasive plant seeds maybe getting stuck in the treads of your hiking boots, or it could be maybe some aquatic invasive plants getting stuck in the motor of a boat, or it could even mean invasive insects hitching a ride in firewood. So again, we want to identify those pathways and educate the public on those pathways so they understand how they can be part of the solution.
And speaking of the firewood side of things, so as it says on there, the buy it where you burn it, tell us about that and how important it is to recognize where you're getting your firewood from.
Sure. So the Buy It Where You Burn It campaign is one of our educational campaigns, and it was a partnership between the Washington Invasive Species Council, the Oregon Invasive Species Council, and different state and federal entities. And it has a catchy phrase to remind folks why it's important to buy it where you burn it, and to buy firewood locally, and to not move it either to new areas of the state or across state lines. And that's really important because but larvae from different invasive insect beetles can be underneath that bark. They can still complete their life cycle even in dead wood, or there could even be like a microscopic fungus that is not visible to the human eye that you could be transporting if you're taking firewood from one area of the state to the other, or even across state lines.
That's really, really good to know. So really, you should just buy it in that specific area. Is there a specific distance you would say that you could buy it and take it to?
Sure. So, general rule of thumb, under 10 miles is where you want to keep it. So, if it's like 50 miles, that's a bit too far. But when we think about all the places that we go to camp and recreate, oftentimes we will see local firewood dealers. And so, again, you want to buy it at the destination that you plan to burn it. And the Nature Conservancy's Don't Move Firewood campaign even has a firewood locator map. And so, if you're curious of where you can buy it that's close to your camping destination, please check out their website for some more information.
That's great to know. Going to, back to what you mentioned with firewood being able to carry these species, whether it's insects or a fungi. I know in particular there's one insect that is of big concern right now for both Oregon and Washington. Can you tell us about that?
So the emerald ash borer is of big concern for Washington state, and it is not in Washington. It has not been detected in our state. However, it was detected in Portland, Oregon in 2022, and recently, as of last month, is detected in Vancouver, British Columbia. So now it's on both sides of Washington state. And this is a really big deal because this invasive insect, which was first introduced to the United States in 2002 in Michigan, has now spread to about 36 other states, and recently on the West Coast in 2022. So that's pretty alarming. And so experts believe that it was maybe able to make that jump over the Rocky Mountains due to unintentional human movement. So again, anything that moves can move an invasive species, which is why we want folks to be aware so we can protect all that we hold dear in Washington state and to not move it outside of the areas in Oregon and in British Columbia where it has been detected. To give a little bit more context, this beetle feeds on ash trees, and once it infests an ash tree, it's got about a 99% mortality rate. So in terms of Washington state, we have a lot of native Oregon ash in our southwest region of our state, but it's also a very popular city tree. Ash trees are planted in cities across the country, so it also has a lot of implications for our urban forests as well. So all the more reason to be aware, be part of the solution.
Other than, certainly what the public can do right there, you don't just buy it where you burn it. So stop carrying that around. What are some other ways that that you're going about trying to combat this? Obviously, it's not there yet, but should it get there, what can you do?
And so there's plenty of resources to take a look at. So the Washington Invasive Species Council has partnered with different state and federal agencies to come up with the Washington State Urban Forest Pest Readiness Playbook. It's a resource with recommended key actions and a self-assessment to help communities large and small determine how pest ready they are. So what existing resources do they have and what actions would they need to take to handle an invasive insect detection such as emerald ash borer. But on top of that, you also have a lot of great resources through the Department of Natural Resources Urban and Community Forestry Program, and there's also a lot of different publications and advice for landowners regarding emerald ash borer specifically through the Washington State University Extension. So there's a lot of information out there, a lot of resources to get folks prepared if it does arrive in Washington State, but fingers crossed it hopefully won't.
Yeah, with that 99% mortality rate, I mean, that's pretty terrifying of what kind of damage that could do.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. You know, I'm a camper. I love camping, and actually I camp in Washington quite a bit. So just obviously buy it where you burn it. That is certainly something I will be advocating for everybody to do on that side. But what else can people who are going out camping, what else can they generally do to both help stop the spread of invasive species, but also if they do see something, report it?
Yes. So luckily, the Washington State and Washington Invasive Species Council has a really great way to report potential invasive species sightings. So we have two ways. One is on our website reporting form. So that's at invasivespecies.wa.gov. But the other is a handy dandy mobile app. It's free for Android and iOS devices. It's called Washington Invasives or WA Invasives. And it's really easy to use. It doubles as a field guide, so it has photos and information on different invasive species. And again, that's plants, animals, insects, and diseases. And it's really easy to take a photo and drop a pin, and that report gets sent right over to the Washington Invasive Species Council. So when we see that report, if it is something of concern, we can route it to the correct lead agency very, very quickly, or even to other invasive species councils in other states. That's just one of the many strengths of the council, is being able to route information quickly through those existing relationships that we have. And so we always urge the public, if you see something, say something, whether you know that for sure what you're looking at is an invasive species, or maybe it's just kind of out of place, you've never seen it before, and you just don't know. Take a minute to take a photo, because that report could potentially save Washington State hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars in costs associated with invasive species management. And if you're tuning in from Oregon, the Oregon Invasive Species Council and Oregon Department of Forestry also has a ton of resources on emerald ash borer response activities in Oregon, and they also have their own reporting form and hotline. So again, if you see something, say something. Your state could thank you.
So really take a picture of it if you see an insect or something or something, anything out of the ordinary that you're unsure of what it is. That's a way to report that.
Take a minute to take a photo and submit it to us through one of those two ways, either the website reporting form or the app, and it could certainly help Washington State out greatly.
That is all great information and great to know. Anything else that you think is important just for people? I mean, you've shared a lot here for people to take the power of helping to stop the spread and also helping out your council. Anything else that you think people should know?
Again, the role of the public cannot be understated. And actually, many different invasive insect detections have actually come in through the public. And so again, the power of having an aware and educated public is so, so great. And again, invasive species don't respect jurisdictional boundaries. It takes all of us working together. So again, please feel free to reach out to the Washington Invasive Species Council if you have any questions. Visit our website, download our mobile app, and again, if you see something, say something. And this camping season, buy it where you burn it.
All right. Well, you've told me, and I will definitely be telling some other people. And for everybody watching, feel free to share this as well. Stephanie, thank you very much for joining us today. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for having me.
And for everybody watching, again, this is Fox 12 Now. We live stream here every weekday, so we're going to take a quick break, but we're coming up at 1:30. We're going to switch gears. We're actually going to be talking about Memorial Day. It's Memorial Day weekend, and in particular, the National Memorial Day Concert, which is taking place in D.C. on Monday. I had the chance to speak to Joe Mantegna. He's an actor. You will recognize Joe Mantegna, and I got to speak to him. He's one of the hosts of this concert, along with a Gold Star father and a veteran. So that's coming up at 1:30 p.m. So come right back on whatever platform you're at, and you can watch me there. If you're watching this not live, thanks for finding us. You're doing the right thing here. There's lots of content for you to check out. But the Fox 12 Oregon app, that's one of the best ways to do that as well. So thank you for joining us. Thanks to Stephanie, and we'll be back here in just a little bit with more Fox 12 Now.